Hey folks, thanks for watching my video. If you are new to my channel, subscribe now and ring that bell for future notifications. Thanks. Hey folks, it is your man Zentai Fit. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, if you're on TikTok, if you're on Twitter, follow me on all those places. And obviously if you're on the YouTube, just make sure you subscribe and comment on this video and like this video. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Star Wars: The Clone Wars has officially come to an epic ending, an epic conclusion, and I want to talk to you guys about some of the top 10 things that I took away from this series, and specifically, talking about the last season. Number one, I really like the Bad Batch in the last season. The Clone Wars in general, it definitely humanized and characterized the clones specifically, and I think with the Bad Batch, it pushed that that way of thinking even further, where it was like, yeah, the clones, they can also be mutated and have different types of powers and whatnot, so I thought that those characters were very, unique in everything that went down within those episodes of having the Bad Batch within the series. So that's one of the number one things I really liked. Number two has to go to Captain Rex. There's tons of moments that I could talk about specifically, about Captain Rex, but in the series in general, and with all the clones looking alike, everybody looks the same, they're all clones, Captain Rex, he's one that's unforgettable, just his character. And that's something you have to applaud with this series, is that with so many of these characters looking alike in terms of the clones, one specific guy, you never forget, and I think he's just awesome. And especially when it gets down to the wire. Oh my God, man, the feels in the last episode where, we see things tie in to Revenge of the Sith, where, Order 66 is initiated, and you can see Captain Rex's reaction. He's definitely, his whole everything is just shaking, because he does not want to go through with this. But just, that's just one moment of many. So I have to say Captain Rex, definitely the MVP for sure. Number three, I would have to say, will go to character development and aging. If you look at some of the characters, you can tell they've definitely aged, and animation is just beautiful. Oh my gosh, the animation in the show is just phenomenal. And that just happens over time. Animation just gets better, but God, that was one thing I really loved. And just seeing the characters, age a little bit, from the last time that we've seen them, like Ahsoka Tano, and you could tell that Anakin changed a little bit, as well as Obi-Wan. The clones, they're all a little bit balder, you know what I mean? I don't know. But again, you could tell that there was some character development and change in terms of aging that, just fits with the time. It has been a huge time gap, obviously, since the show was last on air. But again, you can tell that the characters have aged, and that's something that I really appreciated. I thought it was cool. Number four is getting kind of into the bad aspect, when I'm thinking about the last season specifically. And mind you, Clone Wars in general, every animation in general, every show will always have filler episodes, you know what I mean? But for me specifically, for this last season, since it was all epic and the ending was crazy, there were just a few episodes, and I know you guys know which episodes I'm talking about if you've seen the show, the last season, of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. There were just maybe it was like 2 or 3 episodes that were just complete filler bullshit, and I just wanted it to be over. It was with, the backstory of Ahsoka Tano and where she was. Like, I love her character, and I'm gonna get into that soon too. But, some of the other people she was teamed up with, I mean, goddamn, I can't even remember their names. That's how bad it was. So yeah, the way it ended, and the episodes before those filler episodes and after, it just felt out of place, if that makes sense. So that was something, I would have to pick apart as my number 4 on this rating. That would be one thing that I would say is bad within, this last season. It's just those filler episodes just definitely felt out of place in terms of the feeling from all the other episodes, like I said, before and after. Number 5, it goes to Darth Maul, man. And this is overall throughout the entire series of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and especially this last season, when Maul shows up and he's on screen and you see him in action and you hear his voice, like I said, throughout the entire series and especially in this last season, the tone of the entire show just changes. And as the viewer, we feel that. It's like you want to listen to him. It's like you can feel, you know, the darkness and the rage and just the craziness. And the episodes are just so different. You know, when Maul is on screen, you want to pay attention. And it just changed everything, you know, for me, especially like, man, I will admit, you know, when I first started watching Clone Wars, there were a few episodes where I was like, oh man, I definitely passed out. You know, on some, not all of them. I enjoyed the series as in its whole entirety. But especially when Maul came back, you know, and Savage and all that stuff, you know, in the earlier seasons, you know, I was really drug in, you know, at that moment, like, oh man, this is where it's really getting good. And then, you know, Flash, you know, going forward now in the last season, you know, when he's on screen, you just really want to pay attention, and the tone just completely changes. Like, oh man. So Maul definitely was a highlight, I would have to say, for sure. Number 6 goes to Ahsoka Tano. Man, let me just tell y'all, I love that character. She is just dope. I have a strange crush on the character. I think she's awesome. I want her as an action figure in my collection. You know, like I want Ahsoka everything. You know what I mean? Like, how come we didn't get Ahsoka in one of the live action movies? But hey, we got Mandalorian season 2, baby. Mandalorian season 2. The character of Ahsoka Tano, not once does she ever feel like a side character. You know what I mean? Like, even though you see characters, you know, who, you know, are always in the episodes, who are always throughout the season, you know, but never really have a pinnacle moment. Like, she has definitely grown. She has definitely had development. And I feel like she's just a solid, lovable character throughout, you know, the Star Wars universe. And I definitely have grown to love that character. And I think what they did with her and her development, where she is now, I think it's just phenomenal. So she's definitely a beloved character. And I would say amongst the fandom of Star Wars, kind of like a household name now to me. You know what I mean? Where I feel like, yeah, she's had some extreme development, and, you know, I'm excited, you know, to see more of her, honestly. Number 7, I would have to say, would be, you know, seeing Order 66. Whenever you hear that, whenever you see it taking place, whenever you see it in action, you know, your heart just stops, you know, for a minute, and you gotta pay attention. And seeing that in this show and in that moment, myself, like every other fan that was watching, you could feel the like, it was intense. You could feel like the stillness and the cold of that moment, you know what I mean? And even Captain Rex's, you know, reaction, as I was saying earlier, I think we all felt that, like we were just kind of like on edge and just shaking, you know what I mean? And just to see that moment from a different perspective, specifically with Ahsoka Tano, I thought was just tremendous. So yeah, man, anytime we're able to see Order 66 and just how that was initiated from different perspectives, I really appreciate. Number 8, I have to thank TikTok for spoiling Star Wars The Clone Wars for me, because there was a specific scene. I was just scrolling through my feed, you know what I mean? And then I see Darth Vader, you know, as teasing like the end of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and I was like, oh man, is this real? Yes, it's gotta be real, because the animation is beautiful. But like, oh my god, it's spoiled for me. I already know what's gonna happen. You know, I mean, honestly, we already know what's gonna happen, you know what I mean? But, oh man, that ending was by far just so poetic. It was beautifully made, and it was just, it has so much meaning, you know, within that one moment. And it was just a beautiful ending for Star Wars The Clone Wars. So thank you, TikTok, for spoiling Star Wars The Clone Wars for me. Number 9 has to go to music in Star Wars The Clone Wars. I never skip the intro of Star Wars The Clone Wars. I will watch that shit every single time, because it's I don't know, it's just like, it's meant to be, man. You can't skip that intro. You know, it gives you the option on there. You never can do it. You never can. But one thing I really did enjoy specifically, and I'm bringing up music, is because as you get later into this last season, as you know, trickle down to the wire of the last episodes, the music changes, the opening changes, the colors change. You know, it's no longer that golden yellowish, you know, font. It turns into this, you know, darker red, and sometimes there is no music, and you have this old school, you know, Lucasfilm, you know, opening, you know, with his logo and stuff, and you just feel the tone. But as I'm thinking about it, it makes sense. You can't have this exciting feeling, that exciting adventure type of music with what's about to happen. You know what I mean? It just fit. You know, at first I was like, man, why are they changing the music? I like the music as it is. But then as I watched the episodes, I was like, you know, it makes sense. It fits. You can't have that type of, you know, tone as you're entering into, you know, the Order 66. And so, man, I just thought that that was an interesting little thing. You know, something, a little small nugget that some folks might look over, but it's something that I definitely caught on to. And lastly, number 10, obviously, would be just the tie-in of everything in Star Wars The Clone Wars to Revenge of the Sith. You know, just different little moments. I'm sure you guys have seen other videos, and if you're a fan of Star Wars, you could probably pick apart like, oh yeah, I remember this moment in Revenge of the Sith, but seeing different things from a different perspective, and it's like, oh shit, you know, it's all in that same timeline right now. It's all, you know, coinciding together, you know what I mean? So that was just amazing, man, and it makes me, you know, want to go back and watch Revenge of the Sith again, you know. But I thought that that was just cool, you know, to see it like, oh man, this is all happening. This is that moment, you know. So I thought that was really cool. And that's pretty much all I got for today, you guys. Man, just have to breathe and think about it for a second. Star Wars The Clone Wars is officially over. Like, wow. Well, time to rewatch Star Wars Rebels. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button and comment on this video. What are some of your top 10 things that you enjoyed throughout this series, and just period, you know, in general? Like, what are your top 10 things that you love about Star Wars, or Star Wars The Clone Wars specifically? I love the series, and it really, I have to say, for me, you know, in terms of the expanded universe, has really, you know, drawn me even further into just the love for Star Wars, man, and seeing just different plot holes being filled in, and just seeing these characters in a different light, man, is just awesome. So I love Star Wars The Clone Wars. I'm gonna miss it. I appreciate everything that it was and what it did for the fandom, and just, you know, to see it, you know, end in such a beautiful way was just awesome. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. If you're new to my channel, make sure you guys subscribe, and I will see you here for the next video. Until next time, may the Force be with you always.